Help Me Rhonda Now is dedicated to awakening hearts, minds, and most especially spirit to the unique power that resides within each one of us. So how do we live an empowered life in these unprecedented times, with fear, uncertainty, anxiety, and perhaps anger surrounding us? The truth is, we have an opportunity during these chaotic times to come together and share what's on our minds and in our hearts in new and powerful ways. The good news is that this time is a gift, a chance to pause and hit the reset button. The time is now to thrive and not merely survive. The time is now to live the life we desire, to stop settling for less and living life in default mode. If you're ready to celebrate life, let's talk. Contact me, Rhonda Farrah, at Help Me Rhonda Now, 949-527-1574. That's 949-527-1574. Or email me at rhonda@helpmerhondanow.com. Rhonda@helpmerhondanow.com. And in the meantime, have a magnificent and a healthy day every day. Hello and great day, beloved listeners. Welcome to Help Me Rhonda Now podcast radio and living an empowered life no matter what. I'm your host, Rhonda Farrah, and excited to be here with you today. Our program, Help Me Rhonda Now, is dedicated to awakening hearts, minds, and most especially spirit to the unique power that resides within each one of us. We are all and each responsible for our experiences. In that light, every thought we think is creating our life. The thought that we must be willing to love ourselves as well as truly love ourself, where self-approval and self-acceptance remain in the now, is the key to positive and long-lasting change. From identifying your passion to eliminating your stress, to enabling you to live the life that you desire, rather than just settling for less year after year and living life in default mode. We invite you to explore some of the fundamentals of this gracious journey we have been placed on together, as well as have some fun doing so. Thank you for tuning in, listeners, and joining us once again with an open heart. Today, we have a very special show with some very special guests. This show is dedicated to baby boomers, of which I am honored to be, and to all of us who know and love baby boomers, those of us born between 1946 and 1964. The baby boomer generation makes up a substantial portion of the world's population, especially in developed nations. It represents 21.19% of the population of the United States of America. The prestigious Baby Boomer Roundtable on today's show includes the following distinguished individuals: Baby Boomer fitness expert and author, Dan Zeman; Renee Balcom, founder of the Silver Lining Network; Baby Boomer financial expert, Ron-Surz; Medicare expert, James Miner; Andy Furlong, founder of Tranquility Lifestyle Solutions; Nancy Oriola, certified life care manager, founder of Aging Life Network; and author and communicator of Baby Boomers to Grandchildren, author Gramps Jeffrey. Welcome to each and every one of you. I am honored to have you as my guests on this very, very special program today. Let me tell you a little bit more about our guests, and then we're going to get into their area of expertise and have them offer some of their wisdom with respect to that area of expertise. So Dan Zeman is a data-driven exercise physiologist. His career has spanned 40 years inside the fitness, wellness, and sports medicine fields. As a baby boomer, he believes time spent doing structured exercise programs has to provide a legitimate return on that investment. Dan is identified by the sports and medicine and athletic training world as someone who could bring a unique set of experience and expertise to the training and conditioning of professional athletes across several leagues including the NBA, NFL, and National Hockey League. He also worked very closely with three-time Tour de France winner Greg LeMond. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here.
Okay. And we also have today with us Renee Balcom. Renee is a professional healthcare advocate and founder of the Silver Lining Network. After working with hundreds of people who are classified aged, Renee has found a passion for changing the cultural norms about aging. She has come to realize that most of the information being provided to us about aging is wrong. Most of our beliefs about aging are wrong, and her mission is to set the record straight. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you, Rhonda. I'm so happy to be a part of this panel. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Let's move to Ron-Surz, who is the co-host of the Baby Boomer Investing Show and the CEO of several firms that provide investment advice to baby boomers. He is the author of Baby Boomer Investing in the Perils of 2020. His passion is helping his fellow baby boomers at this critical time in our lives when we are relying on our lifetime savings to support a retirement with dignity. Welcome, Ron.
Thanks, Rhonda. Glad to be here.
Wonderful to have you here. James Miner was born November 27th, 1960 in Burlington, North Carolina, and joined the U.S. Navy in July of 1979. Upon completion of basic training in technical school, his initial duty station was Naval Air Station, North Island, California. After serving 8 years in the U.S. Navy, honorably discharged in 1987, he began his career in the insurance industry. As a career agent with several major insurance companies, such as Prudential, Equitable, and Sun Life of Canada, Jim Miner, developed his knowledge and client base, and in 1995 went on to become an independent producer of multiple insurance carriers offering annuities, life, health, Medicare, and disability insurance in California, Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina markets. A proud father of 4 adult children, he is fortunate to be able to help all those with a need to understand their insurance. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Rhonda. Good to be here.
And Andy Furlong, welcome, has always had a passion for corporate social responsibility and alongside his colleagues set up many programs in third world countries, which serve to help alleviate the desperate plight of many youngsters in economically poor and non-industrialized regions. Over the past 3 years, Andy and his partner formed Tranquility Life Solutions, and it is affectionately known as a company serving the senior market with unintrusive contactless monitoring, along with a variety of well-being enhancements such as fall detection, family connections, safety features, and health awareness, to name but a few. As Andy traverses into this business, his key emphasis is placed upon the notion of both independence and privacy for seniors, alongside security and peace of mind for family members or caregivers. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you very much, Rhonda. It's a real pleasure to be chatting with you guys about these very, very important topics.
Wonderful. Nancy Oriola, it's good to have you here. And she is the founder and the CEO of both age-related service companies and an online consultation service for seniors and their families. Nancy, a licensed clinical social worker, a certified life care manager, a national master guardian, and certified financial planner, we welcome you. Nancy's passion is advocating for the best quality of life possible for seniors, as well as their protection against abuse, neglect, or exploitation. She is also a part of that baby boomer group that sees retirement as a time of doing more of what you want and love and enjoy. For her, that continues to mean innovating new ideas and services to assist others. Welcome once again, Nancy.
Thank you, Rhonda. Glad to be here. Very glad to be here.
Wonderful to have you. And last but not least, Mark Gramps Jeffrey is the author of the book, I Don't Want to Turn 3. When asked why he wrote this book, he responds, living this past year because of the pandemic caused by COVID-19 in isolation, except for being with family, gave me a special time to watch and interact with the grandkids. What a trip. He responds, all 6 kids have completely different personalities. The one thing they have in common is the sense of curiosity and how excited they get when they do accomplish something new. Watching them grow year to year and how they interact with each other is the basis for his book. So he wrote the book to read to his grandkids, and their reaction has been invaluable. Welcome, Mark Gramps Jeffrey.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure. Okay, so here we are in the Baby Boomer Roundtable, making history and sharing some wisdom with our audience. And I would just like to say, I love being a baby boomer, and I love being able to share what I do, which is empowering life and living life that you desire, rather than simply settling for less year after year and living life in default mode. I love being an empowered individual, regardless of situation, circumstance, or happenstance. So it is with that I have come to formulate several questions, and this is a round table. So we'll go around the table, and when you would like to respond, please do. I would like to get your reaction and your response to these questions and how you feel about what it takes to, number one. So again, during these chaotic and yet still uncertain times, what message do you want to convey to our audience and to this world?
This is Gramps. And,
Yes.
all of us have our own bag of rocks that we've been accumulating over all these years. As we get into our 60s and into our 70s, we can either pass on to our children and our grandchildren the bad things that have happened to us during our lifetime, or we can learn from those mistakes and teach the next generation the glory of living. I think that is one of the things that we as baby boomers, we may or may not have learned that from our parents, but it's imperative that we do that to our grandkids, because they are the future.
Absolutely, I agree. The good and the not so good can serve us. Thank you, Gramps. Who else would like to respond? During these chaotic and yet uncertain times, what message do you want to convey to our audience?
Yeah, hi, Rhonda, it's Andy. I'll pick it up from the other end of the spectrum, when we think about seniors, and certainly pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, we really need to make some serious adjustments. Something as rudimentary as communication, is at the heart of so many things for seniors in our world. I don't know about everybody else, but I was appalled when I saw on sort of national TV, people communicating with their senior or their loved one through a glass window from a parking lot. So I think we really do need to, collectively try to, get the left and right brain thinking, and then try to understand, how can we do things differently as the population ages, as we all age, and how can we really be honest with ourselves to really address the, what are the real life and the emotional aspects, and what outcomes are we looking for, whether it's technology or just generally family communication, or how we look after people in the community. And I think we're really spending a lot of time just focusing on how can we use a little bit of technology. We don't want to overburden technology, but we really have that sort of energy to really make sure that we can start to do things differently. And I think, Rhonda, your ethos about empowering is absolutely crucial when we think about seniors, certainly during the lockdown, but more importantly, at any other time, obviously, in their lives and our lives.
Yes, I'm in total agreement, Andy, and disagreement when people say that we don't have what we need at our disposal. We are in a digital age. Let's use the digitalness to our advantage versus not. So thank you, Andy. Who else would like to respond as we go around the table?
I'd like to weigh in, Rhonda. This is Renee
Yes.
Balcom. As a professional healthcare advocate, one of the things that really has become more and more pressing to me and one of the things I'd like our listeners to know about is about advocating for yourself in your care environment. So certainly what we learned and what we saw in the pandemic is so many people that were isolated and just didn't have a voice. I'm very on fire about coaching people and teaching them about how to, number one, be willing to advocate for themselves, go into appointments with their medical team, equipped, become intelligent consumers of care. And I mean care across the spectrum of care, not just care within your doctors, but also care with your elder law attorney, with your fiduciary, whatever your care team looks like. I very much, I'm on fire about training people about how to write their own plan. And not wait until their crisis to learn about the business of care. Because at the end of the day, this is a business in the hundreds of billions of dollars when you look at the collective effort that's moving towards the aging population. So what I'd love for people to walk away with today from me is learning how to understand this business of care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you make a great point about us taking responsibility for ourself, our magnificent self, and living that life we desire and living the best of the best. Thank you, Renee.
I'd like to add to that, Rhonda, because I totally agree with Renee that learning the business of aging and learning to advocate for yourself, I think it's a great service that she is providing to our seniors. The oldest of our boomers are turning 75, and for many of them, they've gone through the process of managing the healthcare or finances for a parent. And I'm sure, for many they've learned and at the same time, our oldest old is, we have many people in their 100s and age 95 plus is fastest growing population. And so there are boomers in their retirement years who think they, are going to have this wonderful retirement life and suddenly they're doing elder care. And what I think it's important for them to know is that there are now, and also for younger boomers, they've gone through the parent care, but they're now dealing with siblings and friends and spouses. And so what they need to know is that you don't have to do it alone, that there are people, there are professional areas of work that have developed in the last 20, 30 years to provide assistance in the form of consultations, guidance, directing you through the complex maze of healthcare or the legal maze, managing dementia behaviors. There's just a lot of resources and they don't have to do it alone. There is professional assistance. And I think it's important for people to learn about those services.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. Okay. Who else would like to respond to this question? Okay.
All right. I first off, it's always nice on these because it really is a complete different group, all boomers, but all kind of come from their own world, which is really appealing for me to be part of. But I guess what I would look at, because COVID is kind of obviously the biggest wake-up call for people. And I think if you're a boomer, if you look at COVID and you look at mortality, these big silos of people over 75 who are immune compromised or have some comorbidity are the ones that really struggle or did not make it through. So the wake-up call for a boomer is that the aging process should really be viewed as a biological virus. I mean, it's a natural occurring thing, just it's the opposing of puberty, where we had exponential growth with puberty. Aging is the downside where we have atrophy, and it's a linear drop that starts at probably age 40, 45 easily. And I think so the thing that you have to look at then is if you're going to continue to age and you continue to have an immune system that suffers because your muscles are atrophying, your heart's down, your lungs are losing, your mind is going. So the homework for the boomer is to now say there's something to me being healthier or more active or mentally engaged or cognitively challenged, not just fit. I quit pushing fitness a long time ago, but the challenge for the aging boomer is to look at aging as a great gift, but look at all the organs that will atrophy and what can you do to fight the aging virus, in fact, and say, I want to play long, I want to be engaged. And that's mentally engaged. And that's what the other comment was about, looking out the window. Nothing sadder than having a cognitive loss because you forgot to challenge your brain. So it's not just about how many push-ups you can do. It really gets down to staying physically active, but emotionally engaged, cognitively challenged. And I think that's to me, if you look back, that's the wake-up call, because you will continue to age. It's just how long can you play?
Exactly. Right. Excellent point. The emotional as well as the mindset will, in fact, contribute substantially to what's happening with each of us physically, whether it's the incidence of disease or hopefully well-being. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Okay. Who else would like to jump in? We're going around the table.
Hey, Rhonda, this is James. I'd just like to say,
Yes.
we're approaching this period of time where us as seniors, us as baby boomers have an opportunity to review our health insurance. So it's open. I would just encourage all baby boomers, all seniors to review their options when it comes to their health insurance. We're approaching open enrollment. So it's a great time to evaluate what they have and what they might need. And so in line of all the stuff we're talking about today, health insurance is going to be at the top of their list. So I would encourage them to take a look at what they're doing right now.
Some very wise words, Jim. Yes, thank you.
Can I add to Jim?
Sure.
He's an example of one of those services that's now available to us. Most seniors don't work directly with a Medicare agent. They try to take care of it themselves and really don't have an idea what they're doing. And I always encourage them to talk to someone like Jim.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
All right. Who else can we hear from?
There's only one left. As near as I can tell. This is Ron-Surz.
Okay, Ron.
Yeah, so we've done 40 episodes of the Baby Boomer Investing Show, and 3 of those were about happiness and retirement from the guys who wrote books. And I just went over all 3 episodes, and there's a theme that runs through all 3 of those episodes, and they're the keys to retirement happiness. And these are going to seem obvious to a lot of people, but they are health, no surprise. And we have people on this call who are certainly involved in health. Their wealth, and we have people on this call who are involved in that, but that's been my focus. And the third one's a little bit of a surprise, but it's purpose. So you want to be healthy, you want to have money so you can enjoy your retirement. But if you don't have purpose, one of the guys wrote a book called Retirement Heaven or Hell, and he shared his own experience, and he was hating retirement just because he thought it was supposed to be watching TV and playing golf, and he found that just wasn't for him. But my mission for baby boomers is on the wealth front, and my friends are baby boomers, and I see how they're invested. And let me just quote a resource that the Employee Benefit Research Institute does a survey, and they report on asset allocation for various age groups. 20-year-olds are 60% in equities, 40% in bonds. 40-year-olds are 60% in equities, 40% in bonds. 80-year-olds are 60% in equities and 40%. You get the drift? It's 60-40 for everybody. And when I say to my friends, are you aware that at this time in your life, researchers have very much documented what's called the risk zone. And you've pretty much saved what you're going to save in your life. And if you were to lose a serious fraction of that savings at this point, it's going to ruin your retirement. So your number one mission on your savings should be to protect them. Now, once you're through the risk zone is the 5 to 10 years before and after retirement, you can start to take a little more risk, and you probably will need to extend the life of your assets. But our mission for the Baby Boomer Investing Show is to first of all, alert people that there's a good chance that they're taking more risk than they really should at this time in their lives. But we don't stop there. We say there's serious dangers ahead in this economy. There are 5 things that have never been worse. Interest rates have never been lower. Stock prices have never been higher. Our government has never printed more money. The wealth divide has never been bigger. And last but not least, there's never, ever been 78 million people all in the risk zone at the same time, the baby boomers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a scary time.
It is. It is. It's a scary time, and time to act again responsibly and not recklessly. Okay. Thank you for the wisdom that was just shared regarding a message to convey to our audience, a very important message. I'd like to move to another question for our baby boomer roundtable. Based on your area of expertise, what do you believe is the first step for a person who wants to create a better life? One of my favorite questions. Again, based on your area of expertise, what you do, what do you believe is the first step for a person who wants to create a better life?
This is Gramps again.
Yes.
And, you know, the way I look at it is the glass half full or half empty? And I think that many of us have gone through our life thinking that the glass is half empty. Well, you know, now that we're in retirement and near retirement, you know, we need to really look at the glass half full, because that whole attitude is reflected in everyone around you, whether it's your kids or your grandkids or your friends. So I would say that our generation needs to start to think about that the glass really has been half full. We're still here. We're still alive, you know, so let's enjoy life while we can.
Okay, excellent point. So what is the first step for a person who wants to create a better life?
Hi, Rhonda, it's Andy. I'm just going to build on what Mark has just said, because I think, you know, whether we think of something as a business issue or a personal issue, if we all start by defining the concern, let's really understand what is at the heart of the issue, and then try to be as open-minded as we can. And obviously, open-mindedness sometimes gets challenged as we all age, but we need to keep our ears sort of closely tuned, because change typically happens in two ways. You know, it either happens with you or without you. So I think, you know, we hold the philosophy really close to our hearts at TLS that, you know, we're trying to introduce sort of a very innovative technology at a difficult time. But, you know, we're not letting that to become a barrier. We're finding ways of getting through it. And I think, you know, we sort of advocate that, certainly in the space that I'm talking to, you know, data is our new doctor. So we really do tackle the problems head on, be as bold as we can possibly be. Obviously, we need to be, you know, fiscally, morally responsible and all of the things around that. But, you know, let's try to, you know, really embrace people and get the fresh change ideas that we need, because we can't keep just reinventing old things. We've got to sometimes do things that are going to augment good or bad that we've had in the past. And, you know, just get people to really sort of unify around a problem and, you know, as I said, be brave, make it happen. And I think, you know, the last thing I would say, you know, we have to remember the famous quote that, you know, advantage is temporary. So, you know, we should always strive to look to see if there's something better that we can do in the course of our lives for ourselves and for other people.
Yes, yes, absolutely, Andy. So as we move around our round table, what is the first step for a person who wants to create a better life?
So I think, this is Renee Balcom. I think, you know, first of all, I loved Dan Zeman's, and Dan, I'm going to use biological virus. I love that. And since we've all been dealing at a global level with the virus, I think we can embrace some of the ways that you can stop the virus, right? As baby boomers, we've changed almost every norm in our culture, almost from the very beginning. We've changed everything. And as we age, I think we will, as a group, continue to make those changes. The first step I believe that we need to do, again, as a healthcare advocate, is to start changing our vernacular. Start changing what we call ourselves and how we recognize ourselves. Words like old or retired. Everyone is aging every day from the moment that we're born. So to suddenly become old is such an odd concept to me. Some of the youngest people I know are 90-year-olds, right? The other thing is the whole idea of retirement. I mean, why can't we embrace the idea of pivoting? You know, that too is done every day. From crib to grave, our interests change and evolve. That's what human beings should be doing. So that's a natural exchange. And yet we hit a certain age, and in our culture in the United States, we're suddenly, you know, those things don't matter. I also feel that, you know, as we as we grow and mature, we're entering into a new stage of opportunity. And for me, it's been a great stage of strength. I know my true north now in my 60s better than I ever have in my entire life. And I hope to even have a bigger grasp on that in my 70s and 80s. I know what I know for certain, and that gives you great peace, and really is our intellectual property, right? So wisdom and knowledge is what we bring, and yet societally we want to push that aside and put it and isolate, and we want to put people in these silos. And I think it's time culturally, and I believe the baby boomer generation are the ones that will change this. It's time to change those norms, right? You know, when you look at marketing, it's funny because you know, you look at the marketing today, and we're starting to see people we recognize in our marketing, but there's still a tremendous amount of marketing that's marketed toward youth. And I think that's fine, because all of us enjoy seeing young, vibrant, you know, attractive people. But I know as a consumer, and I know our generation, and, you know, Ron can talk more about this, but the amount of money our generation spends in goods and services, we are the key spenders. And I think marketing should be geared more towards us. And as consumers, we should ask that. We should demand that. The last thing that I want to say with regard to this, again, I'm going to go back to health, because, you know, there's no care in healthcare. I think we just need to be clear about that. Healthcare today is about treatment. They look at symptoms and they will treat symptoms, but you're not going to find a lot of care in healthcare. So we have to be responsible for ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves. You know, 15 to 20% of our health, and Dan can talk about this more, is our DNA. And I think we need to tap into our DNA and own it, right? Also, we have to bring a consumer mindset. I think I mentioned that earlier, to our relationship with our doctors. If you don't like your doctor, get a new doctor. And there's no reason, you know, we're in the system where they assign medical professionals to us. Well, if you don't like the medical professional, then get a new doctor. And if you don't know how to do that, contact someone like me and I can show you how to do that.
Okay.
You know, your everyday choices make up a big part of your health. And I think it's time as a group that we start really embracing some of those choices, right? And studies have shown, this is the last thing I want to say, studies have shown that people are happiest in the beginnings and the ends of their lives. Most Americans over the age of 65 do live independently, and those of us at a certain age enjoy better mental health than the young or the middle-aged. So we get over things like a fear of dying, and our experiences bring us into a new reality. And I think those are all things that should be celebrated.
You're very welcome. I can tell why you say you're on fire and passionate about certain things. But well said, Renee.
Rhonda, can I jump in after Renee gave me 2 nice compliments? I don't get that very often, so I'm going to follow that up.
Absolutely.
You know, it's an interesting question, because I wrote my first book called You're Too Old to Die Young, and I was amazed at the number of boomers who read it and called me and talked to me about they don't want to die like their parents did. They're not going out like that in a nursing home with no this or no that. And they just said, so it kind of remind me of the movie, The Titanic, not pushing Tom Hanks at all. But here's the point is the guy sitting there goes, they didn't see the Titanic, but every boomer right now who's less than 75 years old, and there's just a few of us jumped in that 75 category, can't say I didn't see the iceberg coming. You know what's going to happen to you because you see your parents. You've seen it. You've seen how it goes out. You see how it goes out. So I think that to your lifestyles, you have to step back and ask yourself to redefine why you behave the way you do. You have to choose your habits and say, why is it that what about your alcohol consumption, or if you're still smoking, or if you don't use sunscreen, or if you don't have medical, if you don't have colonoscopies, or if you're still angry about something with your children or your spouse or your emotional status, you have to ask yourself, why are you still doing those behaviors, and change them. Because you can't, if you don't, you're going to run into the iceberg and it's not going to change. We're still all going to die. But the legacy of your boomer and the legacy of yourself will be whether or not after age 65, you corrected your ship by changing your choices so that you can cruise through without hitting the iceberg and having going, man, guy was just miserable the last 20 years of his life. You know, he kept drinking, he kept smoking, he kept not exercising. He kept being angry. All of those things to me are just so disappointing. You can't say, I didn't see the outcome. Yeah, you did. You buried your parents. So to me, this is the challenge of the boomer. And if there's one thing that I would say that I think everybody here as a boomer is passionate about is that's the goal of the boomer generation, is to change the legacy of aging. Which it should be 20 years that you've lived and you've enjoyed, but make your choices so that you can enjoy the next 20 years of your life. So I go along with that. You got to redefine your overall health status and understand, why do you do the behavior you do? And ask yourself, is it really because I think it's right?
Yes, absolutely. You make a good point. You all make a great point, which is what I have led my daughter to know since she was at a wee age, that preparation is 9/10 of the job. Whatever age we are, preparation is 9/10 of the job of living a better life.
Right.
I think this is Nancy, and I think that's what I wanted to add, was that the first step is to have a plan, because, there are 10,000 people a day that are becoming age 65. That's going to continue for another 8 years. I am a big proponent, because the average age I probably work with is 85. Although I meet with many boomers who are doing planning, you've got to look at the what ifs. So, based on what Dan said, you look at your choices and then look at the trajectory, or look at the what ifs. If you want to stay in your home until the very end of your life and you have a chronic disease, you need to keep your finger on the pulse of what the options are for you to get help in your home, because you at some point are going to need that help. And so trying to look at what I call late life planning, plan for retirement, do all your travel, have fun. But later in life, unless you, even if you do all the right things, I meet people, and Dan knows this, they're totally fit. They're doing all the right things. And because of genetics, things happen, diseases erupt. What do you want? Where do you want to live? How do you want to be cared for? All of what is affordable for you. And this is talking with all the professionals in your life and creating a plan and understanding what the options are. There's a lot of options. And I agree with Renee that the boomers, we've recreated so many things that we have to recreate this late life living environments. I think they are starting to happen. But we've got to improve. I do not want to go to a facility and play bingo. I just have a personal aversion to, I want more life and activity and engagement if I am going to live outside my own home.
All right. Before we double back, in case anyone has anything to add about living a better...
I do too.
Okay.
So Ron-Surz, I want to chat at this. So Jim, go ahead, but don't forget me, please.
I just wanted to say, as kind of someone at the, I'm gonna say I'm at the tail end, kind of at the tail end as baby boomers. I'll be 61 in a couple months. It's important to prioritize and reprioritize what we feel is most important, because things do change, and we as individuals, we have to be willing to, prioritize what's important to us as seniors, as baby boomers, because there's a lot of things out there, a lot of things that tug at our attention and our heartstrings, and we want to prioritize the things that are important to us. That way we can age gracefully, and like all the panelists have said, we want to be able to prepare and have a plan. So I think it's important. We have to be willing to prioritize and also reprioritize.
Hey, I'm sorry. Can I add one more thing before Ron jumps in? Boomers need to know that when our parents needed our help, they had 4, 5, 6 kids. We don't have those. We don't have that number of children. And those children are aware that there are services out there and very often want us to access services and not look to them for care.
Okay, Ron.
Oh, thanks. So my advice is bifurcated to the people who have actually saved a reasonable amount. By the way, only 30% of baby boomers have saved more than $300,000, which isn't really much.
Mm-hmm.
For those people, I say, get in touch with the risk you're taking. And if you really feel that you love your financial advisor and you're sure he's doing everything right for you, that's all fine. But trust but verify is really a smart thing to do for everybody, but especially given where you are in your life. The other 70% of baby boomers, 55 million people, have saved less than $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the retirement crisis. We've done several shows on how those people can still live a happy retirement. So, by global standards, those folks aren't poor, but by US standards, they need to be frugal and careful in what they spend. And some of the stuff we're saying here about, end of life and everything else, fortunately for those folks, there's Medicaid. So it's not pretty, but it is probably what they're looking forward to. So I think everybody can be happy in the US, but there's a big difference between the haves and the have-nots, and it's getting bigger.
Point taken, Ron. Thank you. Okay, let me move on here. Again, with respect to your area of expertise, Baby Boomer Roundtable experts, please tell our audience what you are most passionate about. Most passionate about.
This is Gramps again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm most passionate about seeing others grow and expand in their experiences. Mentoring others, whether it's our coworkers or family, that gives me the most satisfaction. And I think as we grow older, we become the mentors, and we have got to make an effort to make sure that these younger kids are just growing up and try to have them learn from what the mistakes that we have made. So I would say that as a baby boomer generation, our main job is to mentor the younger ones to be better than we are. We want our kids to be better than we are.
Absolutely. Most absolutely. Thank you.
I'm learning
Gramps.
the game here. I'm going to jump in.
Okay, you got it. Okay, Ron, come on now.
Sorry. So I think you can tell, but I'm passionate about just screaming to my 78 million colleagues that they need to protect their savings. And they would need to do that whether we're facing all these crises. But there is highly likely to be a major market correction sometime in this decade. So there's a lot of reasons to just get out of the way.
Absolutely. So what are you most passionate about?
Warning my baby boomer colleagues.
Okay.
So I hope they're listening, and I really appreciate this show. People will heed my warning. And I just, by the way, I think you mentioned I wrote a book, and the book is all about self-help. Help yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Was that you, Nancy? You want to jump in?
I'm passionate about a lot of things, but in my work with seniors, and boomers, I'm passionate about planning. I mentioned that. I'm passionate about, and the reason I'm so passionate about the planning is that I work with so many seniors who suddenly have lost a spouse, and they never handled the finances. They are single and they're now living alone, and they now are developing dementia. And they're sort of panicked about what to do. I think that people don't understand, obviously the healthcare system, but, the whole financial, legal, their benefits. So I love coming in and helping them, but educating them at the same time and empowering them so they can move forward on their own, but finding ways to enhance the quality of life, help them maintain their independence. Those are really critical for me. One of my life goals is to keep people out of nursing homes. There are 1,000 other options, but most people think if they're not in their home that they're going to go to a nursing home. So having people understand what's available is really important to me. And that's why I have my own podcast, Aging Life Network. And, you know, I learned so much when doing this. As you know, Rhonda, you learn yourself.
Yes.
I've recently been talking with a woman who has a company in Denver called Learning Foundations, and we've been talking about the science of the brain and about neuroplasticity and how to create new pathways and neurons and keep your brain growing instead of atrophying. So all those things are important for boomers to start spending a little time with.
Okay. All right. Who is passionate about something they'd like to share?
So I want to piggyback on Nancy.
Okay.
Because we're speaking, you know, I love being a part of this panel because I feel like I'm with my people. So we're all speaking the same language, right? Coming from different points of view, but literally speaking the same language. And the one thing that I'm probably most passionate about is the subject of ageism. And I spoke about that a little bit ago, but, you know, as a culture, we have now taken on sexism and racism with a veracity, right? But the discrimination against people of age, frankly, is getting worse. And I think we all see that in our given profession. You know, the expectation that some of these people can obtain information for care from telemedicine or from a computer is just ridiculous. And frankly, we're leaving a lot of people behind. People of age are isolated, and in some cases, they have been abandoned. Never more apparent, by the way, than during the pandemic. And someone else had mentioned that earlier. Even in communal housing, like long-term facilities, people were abandoned. You know, they were left in rooms, they were eating out of plastic cartons with plastic foods, all at the privilege of spending $10,000 a month to live there. So I personally am just passionate about changing that. Societally, we have to change that. And one of the solutions, I always like to bring a solution to the table, is kind of going back to that old Adopt a Neighbor program. I think some of us remember that when we were kids, right?
Yes.
Imagine if took responsibility for one neighbor, like look around, step out on your porch, look and see what Mrs. Johnson's doing down the street, right? And literally dial in with her and let her know that you're there for her. And I don't think we do that enough anymore in our country, and we need to get back to that. By the way, and to what Nancy was talking about, if you choose to do this, you need to make certain that you're following, that you get certain documents filled out and following the Privacy Act and the HIPAA Act, right? And make certain that you're all dialed in, because if something happens with Mrs. Johnson, you want to be able to be her voice with her permission, right? So the other thing is, I think we have to agree to stop self-deprecating. You know, again, I think we have to commit to learning about aging, celebrating aging, and honoring aging. And as a culture, we just really have lost that. Ashton Applewhite noted in her manifesto that This Chair Rocks, that the nature of prejudice is always ignorance. I think that's true. In the case of ageism, our prejudice begins with distaste for others and will end with a distaste for ourselves. And we need to stop that in its tracks. So I feel like we need to stop segregating our aging population, begin including them as a fabric of society that they are, and really celebrating. You know, if you go to other countries, the aging population is well celebrated. And in the United States, we just want to tuck people away, and it's time for us to stop that. The other thing, Nancy, you know, when you were talking about your group, so 1 in 5 people over the age of 65 today do not have family or grown children to assist them as they super age. So that's something that we really need to start paying attention to. 1 in 5. When I heard that statistic, it was jaw-dropping. So I researched that, and it's actually a true number. 1 in 5 people over the age of 65 today.
Yes, it is true.
So anyway, so I'm again here, and you know, thank you for hearing me.
Well, and there's
Okay.
a lot of single women in the boomer bunch, and they have lower incomes and assets because of many reasons.
All right. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but I want to incorporate, I want to know who has not spoken and what you're passionate about. But as we come to the end of this wonderful Baby Boomer Roundtable, what would you like to leave our listeners with? And that will include, my guess is, what you're passionate about. So in 12 words or less, what would you like to leave our listeners with, and what are you passionate about? If you can, do that. Okay. And I'd also like you to include how we reach you as you each speak.
All right. I guess I can go first if that's okay. This is James Miner. I'm passionate about helping people understand and know that they have a resource for their choices when it comes to Medicare, whether they're new to Medicare and just aging into Medicare, or whether they have it and they need to make a change. I'd like to make sure that people understand that there are people like me, brokers out there, that can help them at no charge, no cost to them whatsoever. And so they reach out to a broker, talk to them, get those questions answered. I personally, like I said, I've been doing the insurance thing for a long time. So I love helping people. That's my passion. I want to help as many people as I can. I can be reached at 619-788-6156. Email miner_James@yahoo.com. And my website is nowhealthcoverage.com. Feel free. Call me with any questions. Like I said, no cost. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, hi, Ron. It's Andy. I think
yes.
I would close. Obviously, I've been very fortunate over the last 30 years to have operated businesses in over 50 countries around the world. And health and safety, whether occupational or behavioural, has always been a major part of my corporate life. We're now obviously in that privileged position to try to be able to apply that with some technology, because I've seen it too often around the world, and certainly the same in the domestic USA, that if we're not careful, good safety can be linked to privilege. And I think we've got to find ways of embracing more people with technology that's accessible, that's affordable. Otherwise, people get sort of left out there. And I think, I've got a great team of like-minded people with very diverse cultures and backgrounds, all striving to achieve that, because we have to respect that certain constituents within the senior community require different things, different stimulation, the way that we present things. So, we've got to find a way to really enrich those lives and do better. And I think, we have to be great custodians of that, and to make sure that, we can implement some really good, meaningful change, so that, future seniors obviously have a better time whether they're retiring, aging in place, which obviously is a very important part, I'm sure, something we're all looking to achieve, or if there's any organised care at the end of that, then let's do that in a very smart way, a very disciplined way. Let's make sure that people are informed. So I guess I'm very lucky. I can continue that passion, and I'm contactable 908-917-4428. Or email is ndf@tls.global. And thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure.
Rhonda, I will need to jump off a little short, so I'll go next.
Okay.
In 12 words or less, I think I'll go back to what I started with. You don't have to do it alone. There are professionals, many of them are here, that you can access to consult with and get help from. I belong to a group, a new area in the aging field in the last 30 years called Aging Life Care Professionals. And we look at the full spectrum of, financial, not at Ron's level, healthcare, finance, legal aspects of a person's life, as well as several other areas, but all areas of a person's life, and help guide people through whatever challenge they're having at this time, I can be reached at nancy@aginglifenetwork.com. And I'm thrilled to have been here, and I appreciate, Rhonda, you doing this. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, 12 words or less. What would you like to leave our listeners with? And how can our audience reach you?
Let me jump in. I didn't get to say passion. I'll save the 12 and under. How's that sound? I'll get them together.
Okay.
Reach me at danielzeman.com. It's an easy website, my name. And as far as passion, I think if I was to say something, the legacy of the boomer is what's at stake. And Ron's point about wealth and health and purpose, we were gifted longevity. We'll be the longest living generation just because we didn't die young. We were gifted medicine that helped us to keep us alive. Whether we have a quality of life, that's out on us. But you have to appreciate that we were gifted longevity, and you have to find a purpose of what you're going to do with it. No one, and I'll make the analogy back to the pros. Every pro athlete retired at age 35 and has got to figure out what to do next. Everybody retires at 65. So if you won the Super Bowl in 1975, no one wants to still hear about that story in 2025. Mm-hmm. If you were the greatest heart surgeon in 2021, retired, and you lived 25 more years, no one wants to know that you did open heart surgeries 25 years ago. You have to find a new purpose in your life. You have to find something that is the new legacy. Everyone's going to have a legacy. They'll call an obituary that they're going to say, didn't do much the last 25 years of his life, except for waited on people. So the legacy of the longer living boomer is what's at stake. Enjoy your longevity, but find a purpose.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Okay, 12 words or less. What would you like to leave our listeners with, and how can we reach you?
This is Gramps, and I just want to pick up on what he was saying is, the legacy that we have is the grandparents need to reinforce what their children are instilling in the grandkids. We are not the parents. Hopefully we as a legacy have left the right things into our kids to instill it into those. So we can't be the parent of our grandparents, of the kids, but we can reinforce what they're doing. So you can reach me at grampsjeffrey.com. That's GrampsJeffrey.com. Thanks.
Thank you.
I can do advice and contact in 10 words.
Okay.
Get help. For investment help, Google Baby Boomer Investing Show.
I love it. Thank you, Ron.
I'd like to leave everyone with, I challenge you to learn the facts about aging, celebrate aging, and honor aging. I'm Renee Balcom, and I can be reached in Sacramento, California at thesilverliningnetwork.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Renee. I think we've gone around the table. And I thank you, baby boomer experts, for conveying your message to our audience. I thank you for contributing to how each of us can live a better life. And I thank you for letting us in on what you're passionate about and how we may reach you. And wrapping it up here, again, I am so grateful for our baby boomer experts today who have shared their wisdom on this very special show on living an empowered life, no matter what. For that is surely our purpose. Absolutely, positively our purpose, living an empowered life, no matter what, age or otherwise.
Thanks, Rhonda. Thanks for doing that.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you all. Dan, Renee, Ron, James, Andy, Nancy, and Gramps. I'm Rhonda Farrah, host of Help Me Rhonda Now, living an empowered life, no matter what. Until next time, remember, have a tremendously magnificent, happy, and healthy day every day.